Hi there, my name is Maddie. I recently graduated from college, and for the summer, I'm traveling around the US to different major cities to explore and spend time with friends and myself. Subscribe to join the adventure and enjoy! My very first impression of Boston after getting off of the bus was that Boston is actually so beautiful. Maybe it was the nice weather, or maybe it was the chance to stretch my legs after a 6.5-hour bus ride, or maybe it was just the excitement of meeting my high school friend, who was also graciously housing me for the duration of my Boston trip. So because I have gotten to Boston on a Friday night, my very first stop was to get dinner. We grabbed some Mediterranean food on Newbury Street and had a very nice picnic by the Charles River until the sun went down and it was completely dark.
Go across the country to school. I've been thinking about it lately and I made up my mind. Is that cool? I wanna know it'll be hard to set minds far and always new. Yeah, I think that's what I wanna do. And baby, no, you can't see it's the best place for me, but I'm guessing that it's different when I'm looking from your point of view.
On my first full day in Boston, my friend and I actually made the trip over to the other side of the Charles into Cambridge. And yes, it just felt like a Boston trip wouldn't be quite complete without doing a small college tour of Harvard and MIT. I was pretty surprised when visiting the two schools because they just felt significantly different, despite basically being neighbors. Harvard felt a lot more like the kind of university you'd see on TV, with the red brick buildings, perfectly trimmed and cut lawn. Everything just looked very crisp, clean, and a little bit old school.
So we could talk about it now and just fool around. It's one of us thinking that the other one is failing and we're both gonna cry.
We're at the Harvard yard and it's really pretty. Look at all the grass. It probably doesn't look like that winter though. No, it doesn't.
But the point is, girl, that I got you now. So if you let me keep loving you and show you how. If you just believe me now.
You go here?
Yeah.
Matches your shirt.
On the other hand, MIT looked a little bit more modern, with whitish cement walls and just decorated very sparsely with some designed columns. In order to save money, we walked everywhere, from Harvard to MIT to this very affordable vegan restaurant to the ice cream dessert place we were going to. It was definitely a really hot and humid day, so I can't really say it was a nice day for a walk, but we definitely got more than our daily steps in.
내게 한 가지 소원을 묻는다면 사랑이란 것을 목매 딸리지 않게 해줘 난 그냥 자유롭게 멀리 날아가고 싶어.
The weather is just so nice.
After lunch and hiding out from the sun in my friend's apartment, I went off to explore the city by myself. I first went to Fenway Park, which is home of the Red Sox, and then Fenway Gardens. Even though it was really hot, I did really enjoy exploring the city by myself, just having the chance to be alone, walk around, just get into my thoughts and, figure things out for myself rather than having my friend who's been going to school here for a while take me around.
Currently at the Fenway Gardens and it's super nice and I can't believe this is right in the middle of the city.
And then, at the end, I walked all the way back just in time to meet my friends for dinner at the famous Italian place called Giacomo's.
Say that again? Are you from Boston?
Yeah, I love Boston.
On day 3, I convinced my other friend to go paddleboarding with me, which was super exciting because if you watched some of my previous videos, I've just been on a paddleboarding streak. I've loved doing it, and I just thought it would be cool to do it in a new city, especially on a really famous river. So we met up really bright and early at the Charles to explore. This was actually his first time paddleboarding, and he did super well. We were able to paddle a good length of the river, and I'm not sure if this is technically allowed, but there was this part of the river that actually branched off into a parallel body of water that was slower moving. It had herds of ducks just, doing their thing, living their life. And even though this water was a lot murkier, it was just really interesting to be able to explore such a slow moving body of water. However, I do have to say, while I was paddling there, all I could really think about was, wow, I really, really hope I don't fall into this water because then I'd really be just swimming in duck poop.
It's a dead fish. How do you like paddleboarding?
Pretty hard.
I don't need to think about it. There's nothing in this world that we can't do. Flowers even mad about it, 'cause they can't bloom like you don't. I don't see a way around it, 'cause everything has led me straight to you. It's nothing new. Baby, I'm outside, been thinking about you all.
After paddling for a good 2.5 hours, just to get our money's worth, we walked to Quincy Market looking for lunch. Again, walking to save money. Even though Quincy Market was really just across the bridge, after being in the sun for about a few hours, the heat was really coming down strong on us. On our way there, we picked up some donuts, and then while we walked around the market, we just really figured out the cheapest and most filling thing to eat.
Baby, I'm outside.
Is it good?
Yes.
You picked the station, sunrise, no destination, no lie, I've been so patient.
In the afternoon, I ventured off to the Museum of Fine Arts. If you've been around for a couple of my past videos, you'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of museums. But this experience was different for me. I'm not sure if it was the strong AC that made walking feel so much more comfortable, or if it was the fact that I was in the museum by myself. I just felt so at peace being able to look at the exhibits as quickly or as slowly as I'd want. I loved the diversity of the pieces and the fact that I could enjoy everything that I wanted to or skip sections with no pressure if it just wasn't as interesting to me. I also liked the fact that I didn't have to necessarily wait or really discuss anything that I was looking at with anyone else other than myself. It took me a good 3 hours to get through the entire museum, and I left right around when they closed at 5 p.m.
Baby, I'm outside, been thinking about you all night, been thinking it ain't right if you and me only see us in our dreams. I'm outside, been thinking about you all night, been thinking it ain't right if you and me.
After dinner, my friend and I ventured off from Back Bay, Boston, and we walked a good 30-40 minutes to Boston Seaport. And we were able to catch the sunset at a beautiful time with amazing weather, and it was just a really nice way to end the day and spend time with one another.
Baby, I'm outside.
I'm starting today a little bit later than usual, but I'll be heading on to hit a lot of the very common Boston historical places. I'm going to be walking the Freedom Trail, so let's go.
Do you think goodbye?
The first stop of the day was Beacon Hill. I just heard it's a must-see place that's super picturesque that just looks very Boston. I really enjoyed walking around the area and trying out some chocolates, walking to the different stores, and just spent a little nice morning in the area by myself.
strawberry balsamic, and I'm gonna try it. They always Been walking around Beacon Hill. It's super humid, super warm, which is why I put my hair up. I'm here at the Boston Gardens and it's super pretty, so well maintained, and let's take a look. Boston Commons, probably one of the most popular tourist spots for tourists, but also for locals here in Boston, and it's pretty big.
On day 4, I was exploring one of the things I've been looking forward to the most, the Freedom Trail. It is a 2.5-mile long path through downtown Boston that passes through 16 locations that are significant to history of the United States. It's marked largely with brick, and you can follow the brick path that's actually on the floor that starts from the Boston Commons and ends at the Bunker Hill Monument across the Charles River in Charlestown. I loved being able to explore these various historical sites. It really highlighted how Boston is a truly old American city filled with so much history. However, something I did want to note, and just something that I realized while I was walking along the trail, was that a lot of these sites just showcase a small portion of history. The parts that are written about and taught in American history classes, but it doesn't actually give the full picture of all of the US history and all of the incredible people that have actually made their mark on American history. Some of these sites include the Boston Commons, the Massachusetts State House, the Paul Revere House, the Old North Church, the US Constitution, and the Bunker Hill Monument, the Boston Massacre, and just so much more areas that are extremely famous to American history.
This is my first time trying a cannoli, so let's see how it tastes. Crossing the little bridge to the other side for the last 2 stops of the Freedom Trail. Finally reached the end of the Freedom Trail. This is the last stop right here. Took a good 3 hours for me to walk and finish all of it. I'm tired and thirsty, but I'm proud of myself for finishing this walk. Definitely good exercise.
Before meeting up with my same two high school friends, I was just thinking about how far we've come since high school. We've been friends for at least all of high school and college, which is 8 whole years, which is almost a third of my life, which is absolutely crazy. It just really felt different meeting up with some college friends versus high school friends because of the history of how long we've known each other and knowing how far we've come from moving across the world, starting new lives in new cities with new experiences and friends. And yet, some things just continue to feel all the same. It's chill, fun, and just all around. I really had a great time hanging out with them.
I'm back in North End because there's a bakery I want to try and check out. And then I'm going to walk to a different part of Boston to explore a little bit more.
For my last day, I was trying to figure out what to do, and I remember looking around for restaurants and things to do in downtown Boston when I came across this landmark for the African American Heritage Trail. And that's when I decided to go ahead and go back to downtown Boston for another walking trail. While I was walking around and looking for the different houses and landmarks, I did notice that this trail was just less trafficked and less noticeable and just way more difficult to navigate compared to the Freedom Trail. It was harder to follow the outside signs, and it was just really hard to figure out where I was going, and each building was just not as obvious. I actually ended up following this website that laid out each stop on the trail, and while I was on the website at each location, I could read and learn a little bit about African American history. Specifically, it highlighted folks that had made an impact in the Boston area from the late 1800s to the 1900s.
Tired, my legs kind of feel like they're gonna fall off. It's been a lot of walking these days.
It's just unfortunate that this trail isn't more popularized or touristy, because I feel like it just holds just as much weight, historical meaning, and background for the folks that lived in these houses and the impact that they've made on American history. For my last stop in Boston, I made a quick pit stop at the Copley Square and checked out the farmers market, and also stopped by the Boston Public Market before heading back and grabbing lunch. Even though I was a little bit short on time, because I had enjoyed picnicking at the Charles River so much, I wanted to end my Boston trip the way I started it, which was hanging out by the river. I had such an incredible time in Boston, and it was just such a great way to kickstart my East Coast city tour. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you want to keep up with my future adventures, I'm hitting so many other cities on the East Coast. Make sure you subscribe to join the adventure and follow along. Until next time, bye friends!